Hey folks, this is Matt once again, coming in with yet again another review that was part of my first time viewing. Again, no longer there because I was worried about copyright, again my fault. But also because once again Dustin, like The Island with Michael Caine, had gotten me this as well. These were the two films he had gotten me. And that's Death Ship, which was just released on DVD in the US by Scorpion Releasing. Now, one thing anyone who happens to be a fan of this film like I am, just so you know, I didn't realize this until today. There's actually a release of this in the UK from 2007, which actually has a commentary with the director, has about a 40-minute making of, and other features. But to be honest, I'm fine with it because I read up on it, and apparently all they do is just bitch about the film, and apparently the director, Alvin Rakoff, if that's how you say his name, he considers this his worst film. And to be honest, Grant, I haven't heard of another film he's done, so maybe I can't judge it, but I don't know. This being your worst film, I don't know. I mean, I know a lot of people don't like the film, but I do, so I don't need features that, they're just going to hate the movie tremendously. I don't know. If anyone has that DVD, you can let me know how the features are, but I'm fine with this. This was a gift anyway. And the features here, it's not much. It's learn what the ship is saying featurette, which pretty much tells you there's times where the ship, you hear German voices. You get to know what they're actually saying. Katarina's Nightmare Theater, which is pretty much a British woman, doing a little thing before the film starts, where she talks about who stars in it, who directed it. Not really info on the film, kind of like just a general broadness of, some people didn't like the fact there wasn't a lot of violence. Some other people did like the film because it was eerie. And that in an interview way back in 1980, I think maybe 1981, Jamie Lee Curtis actually mentioned Death Ship as it freaked her out back then in that interview. I looked up the interview. It was actually on the internet. Who knows what she thinks of it now, but back in 1980 or 81, wherever Jamie Lee Curtis has seen this, she had mentioned it. Maybe she'd hate it now, I don't know. But Death Ship, for those wondering, that says those who survived the ghost ship are better off dead. And this is not that film Ghost Ship is not a remake of this film, but they pretty much stole the cover. And Ghost Ship, first off, I fucking hate Ghost Ship. It had a cool opening with a gory, fucking all those people up with the razor wire. But the rest of the film I thought was dog shit, in my opinion. That was piece shit, and piece of shit, and shit, whatever. Ghost Shit should be called. But Death Ship I like. I mean, again, Ghost Ship stole the fucking cover from this, and this still looks better. But just so you know what the inside was, I like what they did with the inside of this. You see sort of another alternate poster of the film. And this stars George Kennedy, who you've seen in the Terror Within, Airport films, the Naked Gun films, and also Richard Crenna, Troutman himself from the Rambo films. He was in The Evil, which I haven't seen. But Death Ship, let me be honest. If you don't like the film, that's fine. I could definitely see people going, you know what, Matt, sorry, I don't like the film because it's slow and boring. And they have a valid point. But it didn't bother me. Ghost Ship pretty much is, Richard Crenna, who's going to be the new captain of this ship, and George Kennedy is the old captain. He's going to be retiring, sort of forced into retirement. And Richard Crenna's with his wife and his kids. And basically this ship, this Death Ship, hits the cruise liner, the ship that Richard Crenna and George Kennedy and these others are on. And the only thing I didn't like about the opening of the film is you could tell they used some stock footage from other films. I think even on IMDb they mention which films they are, but you can tell for instance, if you see the bulk of the ship, water filling it, you can kind of tell that some of it looks like a little bit like stock footage. some of the shots, and it's like, okay, yeah, you didn't need to do that. Even if you just want to imply the whole thing is better than using stock footage, but whatever, and it's a little thing. But I like the idea behind the film. I mean, it might not seem much, but okay, a ship that's haunted. Okay, that's cool. Hell, I'm the type of guy, I love Event Horizon. There's cliches, but I enjoy, hey, it's a ship it's a spaceship that's haunted. Sometimes little things intrigue me. Yeah, I know it's weird. Like, I think if you did a haunted skyscraper movie, like a good version of Poltergeist 3, or something like that, it'd make a fun movie. I mean, again, sometimes the little differences can intrigue me. It's better than just another apartment or another mansion that's haunted. So I like the idea of the ship, and that this ghost, or I'm going to call it death ship, because ghost ship says, this death ship will ram cruise liners to take them down. But basically what happens is Richard Crenna and the others, they're on this raft, and I like some of the direction in this film. I like when Richard Crenna and is with his wife and kids, and there's a couple other survivors on the raft. You see Richard Crenna them, and you sort of see the death ship sort of, the camera sort of shows the death ship, and you see how small they are compared to this death ship. And they find George Kennedy in the water. And what I liked about this film, other than I like Richard Crenna, I like George Kennedy, this is sort of an old school haunted house flick where it's more subtle. It's not a violent movie. Like, this is rated R. You could cut a couple things, it would not be R-rated. But at the same time, Ghost Ship is fucking violent, and that film sucked, in my opinion, because I didn't care for the characters in Ghost Ship. I didn't care for the plot. I didn't care for the ship itself. I never thought it was creepy or eerie or scary. And I thought the ending sucked. And even the premise behind why the ship's haunted didn't interest me, like the backstory. Here I thought it was a much more interesting backstory, which I'll get to. But I like the little subtle things. It's more like a subtle haunted house film, kind of like an old-fashioned where it's doors slowly moving. Like Richard Crenna, this guy, I think the actor's name is Nick Mancuso, are helping George Kennedy, and they're going up sort of this ladder, and the ship makes it so that it tips over and they'll fall into the water. Or like there's a survivor, the ship sort of maneuvers subtly, hooks the guy so he's upside down, puts him over, dumps him in the water, puts him up, and then makes him fall so he's carried off by the waves. And you see like doors opening and closing by themselves, and then George Kennedy, he's on the bed for a while because he's trying to recuperate. And sort of like The Shining, where this location or this area is affecting a person, pretty much makes George Kennedy go crazy. And, the German voices, there's no subtitles, but I'll just let you know the German voice is basically saying, you could be the new captain, you could be the new captain of the ship. And it influences George Kennedy, so you have George Kennedy being a bad guy, going crazy. Some would say he's hamming it up, but, I had fun watching him. I was like, okay, I don't see George Kennedy playing a bad guy too much, so, and I like George Kennedy as an actor, and again, I like Richard Crenna. So I like the subtle ways, or even like as simple as you have this big hood hits the Nick Mancuso's character, so he falls over. They try to get the life rafts, but it gets sent down and drifts away, so they can't get off with the life rafts. I like the ship itself. I thought the ship itself was a cool character. The inside of the ship as well as the outside. That was a really eerie... I think that's why. I thought the film had an eerie mood to it, but that's just me personally. I didn't mind the score by... trying to find the guy who did the score. Anyway, you can look it up. I'll just look it up here. I have Wikipedia. Ivor Slaney. I don't know. I just thought the movie had a nice eerie mood to it. Eerie atmospheric mood to it, which I appreciated. I will admit, again, the problems I have, the little stock footage at the beginning. In the middle is a little bit slow. I think there's stuff that could have been cut out. I like the bit where it's one of those things that made me think. For instance, you have this woman, and for some reason the shot cuts back to like these peppermint patty type things in a glass. I'm like, why does it keep cutting back to that? And she takes some, pops it in her mouth, and it's like cuts to that scene. I'm like, okay, that was pointless. What the hell was that? Because a little bit of the group finds this projector, and they're watching it, and then by the end of watching it, the little girl turns around and gets scared, and you find out that the lady, that same lady, her face is fucked up, and I went, oh, that's why they had the peppermint patty things. It's she ate them and then fucked up her face, and then she goes to George Tanner for help, and George Tanner, again, he's being influenced by the ship, so be its new captain, and strangles her. And yeah, it's not really that violent of a film. Probably the violence is, there's a scene where you have the Nick Mancuso, who's kind of like the, he's not technically the first mate, but he might as well be. He's helping Richard Crenna. Him and his girl is actually trapped in the shower, and you have blood. Like you see a little bit of titties, but the blood is filling up the shower, and he's trying to break it, and it won't break. Great, maybe you've seen that scene before, but I don't know, that scene I liked. I liked the way it was done. I always thought that's a creepy idea that a shower is filling up with blood and you cannot get out and the person can't get in. But this is what I'm talking about, where the pace is a little bit slow, because they have this extended scene where the Richard Crenna's two little kids, they wander around, and the two little kids are not really the best of actors, but they wander around and they get lost, and then George Tandy finds them, and then takes them Richard Crenna. That entire scene could have been completely cut out, because it's intermixed with a much more interesting scene with the girl being trapped with the blood filling up the shower. You could have completely cut out all that bit with the kids. That little scene where they wander around, it's not suspenseful, it's not scary or anything. That's what I mean. You could have done little stuff like that to bring up the pace a little bit. It didn't ruin the film for me, I'm just saying. What appealed to me the most is like scenes that I just thought was plain eerie, like Richard Crenna and the Nick Mancuso's character. Nick Mancuso gets Richard Crenna to get his woman out, but then when they get there, the shower's all cleaned up. And when they try to find her, George Kennedy has grabbed the girl who's still covered with blood and throws her off. So they chase George Kennedy, and they see weird things, like they go into a room that's like completely red, and they see all this eerie Nazi memorabilia, and you find out that this ship was actually a Nazi sort of prison ship or interrogation ship, which I thought it was a more interesting backstory than like Ghost Ship was. I like that bit. I like that they go into this sort of medical little place and they find this thing, and what's all this? It's like, it's teeth. Like there's gold teeth and there's actual teeth in it. And then they go in another room, there's like all these decomposed corpses. And then like they go into this projector room and the projector keeps playing, and even like Richard Crenna knocks the projector down, and the other guy's like, he keeps tearing the screen, but then there's another screen behind. He tears the screen, there's another screen behind. There's all this Hitler and Nazi, and like you can tell that the ship's influencing them and fucking with their heads. Just like Mancuso, he sees like these lights, and he jumps, and the next cut, he's outside, and there's George Kennedy, and the guy falls into this pit where all these corpses are. So I'm like, yeah, the ship's definitely fucking with their heads, because they're inside this projector room, and then all of a sudden the guy's outside, and it's that guy gets drowned amidst all these corpses in this pit. While Richard Crenna, he's freaking out, but he sort of snaps out of it, grabs his knife, and stabs George Kennedy in the stomach. I'm like, yeah, and get his family out.